Hey, Shalom Markins of Karmakapash from Jim Slotting, giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem Chachadash. Want to give double honors unto the elders, to the apostles of GMS, and Shalom out there to the hopeful elect, pushing his truth and not sincerity. Back again with another video. I've got this article here from Reuters. It says UK military chief urges Britain to better prepare for Russia threat. Right, so the war call is being sounded, right, to all you Brits out there, right, to you fellow Brits out there, right, especially you fucking you Baconites, man, right, that want to defend your country and stop the immigrants and that. Yeah, well, why don't you come and sign up to the army, man, and find and help the army out, you know. Let's see if you go do that. Cool, no Baconites. All right, join the war effort. All right, because this is what's going on. This is what the Lord is mustering up, man. Okay, this World War III, right? And a lot of you people are going to be conscripted into the army, men and women, right, to fight and die in this coming war. All right, so they're letting you know, man. Look, man, we're gonna be calling upon you. you're gonna get the call, right? Because they're making it seem like this is a real threat, and so you men are gonna have to go fight, right? And I said the women included. All right. So let me read some of this, right? This is London, December 15th, right? A few days ago, right? So Britain must get better prepared to deter the threat of conflict, particularly from Russia, by encouraging people to be willing to fight, increasing industrial weapons capacity and developing skills, the country's military chief said on Monday. Air Chief Marshal Richard Knighton, chief of the defense staff, told the RUSI think tank Britain had yet to feel the threat from Russia as acutely as many of our allies in Europe, which had already moved to increase defense procurement and in some cases return to a form of national service, right? A form of national service, right? So, they're going to go like with the entry level stuff, the soft sell, you can just, work in the factories and, you can, prepare the food, for the army personnel, right? Until the day comes when, that's not enough. Okay, you're going to have to put your boots on, lace them boots up and go out there and give your life for the country that you so love, right? You talk about this is Britain, losing our identity and then, these people, they don't want to, we'll see how much you love this country, man, you fucking Baconites, man. And see if you go over there, man, and defend your country. You're going to really find out if you're about it, right? Or your Anthony Middleton's and that, because he's ex-military or something, innit? Or whatever, he'll probably go fight, whatever, man. But the rest of you Baconites, man, okay, that are in these different towns or whatever, disgruntled because of the immigrants and anyone that's is not white of skin, so-called white of skin, right? You ain't gonna go fight, maybe a couple of you man out there, but you ain't really on that, man, right? Too busy fucking drinking in the pub, mate. Right, but anyway, it says Europe is trying to fill a hole left by President Donald Trump's demand for the continent to take over the majority of NATO's conventional defense capabilities. And this is the beast, right? Donald Trump, America represents the whore that sit on the beast, right? But the whore is mistreating the beast, right? And this is why eventually the beast is going to turn on its wielder, on its master, right? And play a part in destroying America, right? So particularly when peace negotiations between Russia and Ukraine are fraught. And Knighton's words seem directed at encouraging Britain, its government and its people to take the threat of a possible wider conflict more seriously and to act more quickly. The Russian leadership has made it clear that it wishes to challenge, limit, divide, and ultimately destroy NATO, he said in his annual lecture. It is clear to our allies that the risk to NATO and to the UK from Russia is growing. Unless we are able to raise awareness and stimulate the conversation with society about the risks, We cannot expect the rest of government, society, and industry to act or bear the costs. Russia said it has no plans to attack NATO. Knighton said, while our objective must be to avoid war, Britain must encourage more people to be ready to fight in the regular army and the reserves, to build the capacity in industry to meet the demands, to restock and rearm and develop the skills the defense industry needs. The hollowing out of the armed forces must end, and instead they must lead. They must lead in NATO, and Britain must win the race to exploit new technology and integrate it into our fighting system. Sons and daughters, is a quote. Sons and daughters, colleagues, veterans, we all have a part to play, right? So everyone's gonna be a part of the war effort, man. We're going back to World War II time, World War II times, man. Yeah, with the women, you weren't just simple housewives no more. No, you're gonna work in the factories and manufacture that ammo, the Michelle's, right? You're gonna play your part. And these women, you don't get twisted, man. You're gonna get called up to fight too. You know, you're gonna see how bad you is. On the field. If there's any of you Black Widows out there, taking down bare, special ops dudes and shit. We're gonna find out. All right, it says, sons and daughters, colleagues, veterans, we all have a part to play, to build, to serve, and if necessary, to fight. If necessary, it's gonna be necessary, man. The Lord's gonna call upon all these nations and all that they got, right, to go fight, right? Because ultimately, this war, even though Russia's gonna play that big, antagonistic war or part to play, right? It's going to be as like the big bad, right? It's not going to be fought in Europe. This, the bulk of this warfare is not going to be fought in Europe, right? It's going to be fought in the Middle East. That's where you men are going to be going to perish, right? That is, the valley of Armageddon. Okay, which I'm going to get all this in a second with the scriptures, right? Yeah, hard bars. And more families will know what sacrifice for our nation means. Yeah, man, these Baconites are chatting shit right now. The man just chatting shit. Oh, we're gonna defend our borders. We're gonna defend the coast. You're gonna find out how far you're prepared to defend your country, man. Right? You're gonna know about sacrifice. Right? There's gonna be a lot of death, man. A lot of these, yeah, man. Right? More families will know that what sacrifice for our nation means, he said. That is why it is so important we do explain the changing threat and the need to stay ahead of it. Right? So the drums of war is beaten. The men are calling upon you, man, to fix up, right? And be ready and be prepared to go out and fight, to play your part in this war, this threat that these men are, that they perceive, right? Which is a real threat at the end of the day, man. World War III is in the scriptures, man. So it's like, it's going to happen eventually, right? And not saying Russia's righteous tonight, because they ain't, right? But this war isn't going to be because, it's not going to be all Russia's doing. Let's just put it that way, right? All you parties, right, have your part to play in this and why it's led to this, man. And these small hats in particular have their part to play, right? Why you're going to be going out to this war and giving your lives, ultimately for nothing, right? That's what it's going to be, man. Ultimately for nothing. Okay, you're just just a pawn in the game. All right. So let me start here in Obadiah chapter 1, verse 1, right? So the wisdom of Obadiah, thus said Lord God Yahweh concerning Edom, okay, you Edomites, you so-called white people, right? We have heard a rumor from the Lord Yahweh, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye and let us rise up against her in battle, right? The word out on the street is that, yeah, these men, there's a war coming, get ready, build up your armories, do your training, and be ready. Get your technology up, get ready, right? Because we're about to go out on ride on the enemy, right? And that's why all these nations, they're investing more and more into their warfare, right? They're becoming more and more militant, because they know they can smell that war, right? It's around the corner, right? Everything that's happening in the world right now, all because of prophecy, right? So the Lord's got the spirit of these guys to be in this this war mindset, right? To prepare for a great war, okay, another great war, right? Hence World War III. Okay, it says, "Arise ye and let us rise up against her in battle. Behold, I made thee small among the heathen; thou art greatly despised." All right. So, like I said, they're gathering together to go to war with one another. All right. This is Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 8. It says, "Therefore wait ye upon me, saith the Lord Yahweh, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger. For all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy." Right. So it's the Lord's will to gather these nations and their armies together. Right, so he's got to put you in that mindset, right? He's got to put you in the mindset of, you man going to war, right? So you're gonna get conscripted, man, because let's be honest, man. Europe's army is lacking, right? And it's not only Britain that's talking this way, right? They know they're behind. They know they're not ready for no large conflict with a nation like Russia, right? They know they've been behind on developing, their technologies and their ability to wage war, right? Russia's kind of sharp right now. Right, being locked in with Ukraine right now, man. They've been investing heavy, for a long time now. Mostly in their missile systems. So, Europe is falling behind, right? Their reserves, their army personnel is low, right? You need a whole injection of people and money, man, right, to get you on the level, right? You've been relying too much on America and NATO as a block. Right? You took comfort in knowing that you've got a united front, a block between Europe and America, which America was doing most of the heavy lifting, so to speak, right? But Trump is like, he ain't having that no more, right? He ain't having that no more, man. They said you got to start fending for yourself, man. You got to start fending for yourself, all right? And so now they're looking, it's like, oh shit, like what if America, ain't gonna help us like that? And like Russia's, ain't that far from us, man. Okay, we're connected. Well, Britain's not, it's Ireland, but Europe is connected to Russia, you know, by land. So like they could roll through, right? And we have to be able to respond to that, right? So the Lord's got them in the spirit, man. But the Lord is just doing that to bring them all together to fight one another, man, like a battle royale, right? But the venue is going to be the Middle East, just like where all the best fights are happening right now is out there in Saudi, right? This one's going to be promoted by the Lord, right? Out there in the Middle East, man, right? And that's where all these men are going to come and blow each other up, right? Because it's the Lord's determination, right? I read it again. "Therefore wait ye upon me, saith the Lord, until the day I rise up to the prey of these other nations, right? For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation," right? And it's like what we say, the Lord is against these nations, man. And that's why he's going to lead you there down to the valley of Jehoshaphat, okay, for the battle of Armageddon, right? To pour upon them his indignation, his righteous anger, right? "Even all my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy." Right? That's what the Lord is doing. Right? That's what the Lord is getting these guys to prepare you for. Right? This is Revelation 16, verse 16. "And he gathered them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon, which means mountain of troops. Right? This is where the armies of the world are going to be drawn down, right, in their masses. Right? Yeah, it's going to be a world war, and it's going to be, skirmishes going on all over the place, but the bulk of the war is going to be fought in the Middle East, because of these tiny tops. Right? This is Revelation chapter 20, verse 8. "And shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle." Right? So, this purpose, Esau was released for this purpose, right? To tell lies, right? To tell lies upon the earth, right? And to bring about his own destruction by bringing around this World War III event, right? So he's gone around and deceived the whole earth, right? Box ticked, right? And now it's all about bringing together, these nations together for this war, right? Which Gog and Magog, which represents Russia, okay, is the main, big bad of the West, all right? Which they're gonna have all these nations, um, cooperate with to defeat, right? You're gonna have the West, America's allies, right? EU, NATO, right? And you're gonna have Russia and their allies, China, Iran, these types of guys, right? And they're gonna fight it out, right? So Esau was set out to, bring this together and bring this to come to pass, right? So the Gog and Magog to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is the sound of the sea, right? So again, this is all part of prophecy, okay, that's playing itself out, right? And so we know exactly what's going on, or what's going to happen, right? It's all here written, right? It's Joel chapter 3 verse 2. It said, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and I will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, right? Whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land, right? So this is why you're being brought together, because you're wicked, because of your wickedness, right? Towards the children of Israel, right? And this is why the Lord is pouring out his indignation upon you, right? But he's bringing you down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, which is, down in the Middle East, for this battle royale, this fight to the death, uh, Squid Games thing, man, and the Lord's just going to watch you, murk each other off, right? Jumping down to verse 9, though, right? So proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, right? But among the nations, right? Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men, right? So this is the same as Obadiah, the Lord has sent an ambassador out there to prepare these guys for war, right? And that's why you're having all these military leaders, not just in UK, but, Europe, they're all talking about this, man. The need to ramp up their militaries to prepare for this threat, So proclaim this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Beat your plow, damn you adverts. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong, right? So, on this side, they're preparing, and, down there in, in these, weaker nations, man, they're preparing, right? They're all up in there, they're spending on warfare, right? These nations that were, being, I mean, they're still getting bullied to some degree, but, these people, these nations that had, like, just no backbone to stand against the likes of America and that, man, they're getting help, right? And they're getting funding, right? They're getting technology, they're getting guns, they're getting missile systems, they're getting nuclear capabilities, and to fend off these the enemies, all right. And so they're doing this more and more, right? Because the Lord's Spirit is on them to do it. All right, it says, assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Till I cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Right, so that's the main venue of this war. All right, put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full. The fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. Right, so this is where it's all working towards, man. Is Isaiah 66 verse 16. It says, let me read from, I'll read from 14 here, right? So when ye see this, your heart shall rejoice, and your bones shall flourish like a herb, and the hand of the Lord shall be known towards his servants, and his indignation towards his enemies. Right? You're going to know who the Lord hates, man. Who the Lord's got a vendetta against. Right? And again, a portion of that is, the portion of that vendetta is against, the bulk of his people, right? Because they refuse to acknowledge the Lord and repent. All right, so the wicked of our people are going to receive this too, right? And they're going to be signed up to go fight. Jake loved to fight, for the white man, but you patriots out there for America, But yeah, you're going to go there too, and you know get blown to bits. All right. Verse 15 says, For behold, the Lord will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury, and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many. Right? There's going to be a lot of death that's going to be going out. Okay, this war is going to take a lot. Right? All these plagues and pestilences, the famines and stuff, that's going to, get rid of a lot. You have the angels, when they turn up, you get the missiles in America, that's going to claim a lot of lives, right? And so you can have the angels in that, putting people into the grave too. There's going to be a lot of death that's going to take place in this time. All right. So you're going to need all the bodies to throw at this thing, man. You're going to be calling everybody to fight. All right. But like I said, we're going to see if you be Baconites out here, man, are really up to the task. Because most of you are fucking fat, lazy, right? You ain't fit for no warfare. You talk hard, talk a game, but you ain't really about it. Okay, you're gonna end up, you're fucking pussies, man. Right? You ain't gonna want to go. Right? It's Jeremiah 51, verse 30. The mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. Even the mighty men are not gonna want to fight. So they have remained in their holds. Their might have failed. They became as women. They have burned her dwelling places. Her bars are broken. Right? You ain't even gonna want to fight. You men ain't fit to fight. All these youths, right, that are of military age, as these men like to say, right? All these youths, right, that are, British youths that are of military age, they ain't gonna want to fight, man. They're too busy on fucking Call of Duty, but they don't want to go fight for real. There ain't no respawning in war, man. Right? And the image of Britain and America, that is so fucking tarnished. These men don't even believe in the things that they fight for no more. There's so much scandals of the military and what they've done, or the campaigns they've been on, for what, for why, what reasons. Iraq, weapons of mass destruction. Didn't find none. Didn't come back with nothing. Right? Million Iraqis dead. Why? And all these different conflicts were involved is why. So these people ain't, these guys don't want to fight, man. You just want to chat shit, talk shit about immigrants, right? About this is, Britain's not the same no more. Well, we will see how hard you prepare to fight for it. When the Russians come, This is Isaiah 19, verse 14. So the Lord have mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof, and they have caused Egypt to err in every work, as a drunken man staggereth in his vomit. Right? There's a perverse spirit in these places, man. These men ain't on shit. Okay, they've grown weak, man. They're weak, got weak minds. Weak bodies too. All this Western culture that they've been lapping up, man. Okay, they don't know about hard times yet. Okay, they've been, living it up, so to speak. People are these Edomites are catching, getting it rough. The middle class and that kind of stuff, they're catching it rougher now. They're getting pushed further to the bottom, man. But you ain't prepared to go through what what we're about to go through. Right? Like I said, you man was never around in World War II. How man were living. You weren't out there on the battlefield. Well, now here's your chance. Here's your chance to prove how much you love your country, innit? I beg you, sign up. I beg you, sign up, man. Just show you how it's done. How to be a true Briton. Whatever, man. But do it, innit? Sign up. Do it now. Sign up, man. Because they need you. They're calling for you, man. Defend the country. They're calling for you. But I don't see you running. I don't see you running to these guys and signing up. Nah. You're just about the immigrants, about the boats. The boats. That's what you're about. You dickheads. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there. The audience has been edifying, and I'll catch you brothers and sisters on the next video. Until next time, I say shalom.